Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. Today I want to discuss with you the potential battlegrounds for the 2022 Senate election. I want to knock this off quickly because we're not really going to know where's competitive until the end of 2021 at the earliest, but I wanted to discuss it now because I kind of just want to get this catch-all out of the way. Because everyone will say X or Y is competitive, and you will hear periodic trickles of information about blank or blank being competitive because blank did blank in the Congress or whatever. That's not the case. Overall, and vastly, for the most part, not many states will end up being competitive. I've already seen articles about how Utah could be competitive, or New Hampshire, or Maryland, or X or Y if a certain candidate runs. But until candidates have declared, we can't assume somewhere will be competitive. As such, I'm just going to go through right now and do a little quick overview of everything for you about where and what is going to be competitive, or has the potential to be. We'll go west to east, starting with Alaska, the first competitive seat. You see, Alaska in 2020 enacted ranked choice voting for the top 4 candidates, meaning there will be multiple candidates competing against each other for votes, and the essentially consensus candidate, whoever can gather the most votes after everyone's been eliminated, or at least eliminated down until they pass 50%, will receive the seat. This means Lisa Murkowski, the incumbent Republican, won't just have to deal with challenges from the right, but also challenges from the left, meaning there's going to be a most likely this will break down between a libertarian, some level of right-wing independent, Lisa Murkowski, and a left-leaning independent. Now, here's a key factor here. Both the right and left-leaning independents in Alaska tend to caucus with the Democrats because, weirdly enough, they kind of just want whoever will keep the government out of their business. And for the most part, for the Senate, that tends to be the Democrats as opposed to the Republicans. So there's I'd say 50% chance that you could end up with a strong candidate who says, I'm going to caucus with the Democrats. But more importantly, there's also a strong chance the Libertarians might gain a seat through Alaska. As such, Alaska is a definite potential battleground to watch. It might not be if Lisa Murkowski fails to receive any strong challengers or manages to remain considered a moderate in the Senate. Next up, we have Nevada. Now, Nevada is a state that historically was a red at the state level, blue at the federal level. In 2018, that changed, becoming blue across the board. And I think we're going to witness this change continuing as it becomes more blue, much like the rest of the West Coast. However, it's not there yet. A strong candidate in Nevada could flip, cause the race to become more competitive at the very least, and a possible flip, especially if Latinos are drifting away from the Democrats or there's the wrong type of outreach there. Similar story for Arizona, a state that is now red at the state level and blue at the federal level, having had a massive flip over the past few years. But that doesn't mean they can't revert to a more red status quo. It's all a question of how do the midterms go for where is Alaska going to be located for the foreseeable future. On to the Great Plains heartland area, we have Kansas. Kansas is a state which is fascinating, as Republicans and Democrats have become noticeably more dissimilar in that state. For a long time in Kansas, Democrats and Republicans were pretty similar on policies and things, but now they've finally broken with the federal split, and of the two parties where Republicans are noticeably more right-wing, Democrats are noticeably more left-wing. And with that has brought some surprising victories for the Democrats, namely in the 2018 midterms. If that trend continues, this race could be very competitive in Kansas, namely due to a lack of strong statewide individuals to put up to win races. And meaning if the Democrats put forward a strong candidate, that could be interesting. Next, we have Iowa. Iowa being competitive relies on one key factor. Does Chuck Grassley retire? He would be leaving in his 90s if he wins re-election, and he may not want that. He's already gone Senate pro tempore. However, As you can see here, if he leaves, the seat could be competitive. It's becoming clearer the more we look into the data. One of the few things that helped Republicans quite a bit in 2020, it's still this year, in the Senate race, was the incumbency bias. So that was a key factor. Next, we have Wisconsin. Wisconsin's incumbent senator has already said he plans to retire. We'll see if it actually happens. His name's Ron Johnson, but he's also been the guy who's really against COVID relief. And now we're watching as, essentially, he flounders on the national stage and has low approval ratings inside of Wisconsin. That could end up costing him his seat. Down to Kentucky. Kentucky, another state. Mostly red, but has a strong history of also electing Democrats. There is one reason why Kentucky's not purely competitive, and that is Rand Paul. The so-called libertarian candidate has had a strong electoral history in the state, as has his father, and they essentially want to have a strong family history to the area. With that being said, Rand Paul has had a long string of controversies, and if those are brought up and used against him, or if he's challenged from the right and loses a primary, Kentucky could become competitive. Down to North Carolina. North Carolina is a state which for a long time has been getting bluer and bluer and bluer, and the question is, when is this thing gonna break? I thought it was 2020, didn't happen then, nearly happened in 2018, nearly happened in 2016, so potentially could happen in 2022, and if it happens then, at that point North Carolina is basically Virginia. Next one, Alabama. Good old Bama is a state that is kind of showing the direction the South is heading in. Normally very red right-wing, but in contentious elections, very competitive, and I think Alabama is going to be in that case again. Especially with the look of a potentially new candidate running for the Republicans. The incumbent Republican, Shelley, looks likely to be in a position where he might be forced into retirement if he doesn't retire willingly. Meaning, for lack of a better term, Alabama could have a very competitive race, especially if you have a charismatic African-American chap running for the seat. Lastly, I've got one more for you, and that is Pennsylvania. And we'll have a good word to New Hampshire in a moment. Pennsylvania is a state that has historically voted blue at the federal level and red-ish at the state level. But we're seeing a change in Pennsylvania, where, unlike where it voted for a Republican very willingly in 2016, it looks likely they could vote him out in 2022, especially given the fact the incumbent Republican's not running, so that's kind of already sealed, that may have already sealed the fate for the potential challengers. Now, a good word to New Hampshire. Why haven't I put New Hampshire up here? New Hampshire has been categorically blue at the federal level for years and years and years. I understand there are some who believe Chris Sununu could be running, the current incumbent governor, but that requires giving up a lot of power that he could potentially lose if, well, he loses the Senate race. And he's going up against a Democratic senator who has very good popularity in the state. New Hampshire tends to be much more of a stay out of my business type of state like Alaska, so they tend to vote for Republicans at the local level who tend to have much more of a local flair, and then vote blue federally. This trend has been known to be a trap for governors who think, ooh, maybe I can flip the state my color because I was really popular as a governor. To use the exact opposite, to flip the two parties, we can use Montana in this last election. Steve Bullock, very popular incumbent governor in a red state, ran, lost his election by a smaller margin than people expected, but he still lost. So there you have it, 10 potential battleground states for 2022, and this is in favor of the Democrats as they only have 2 seats which could be competitive, Nevada and Arizona, while Republicans are looking at 8. So, with all that being said, if you liked the video, drop a like down below and also leave a comment. If you want to hear more from the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to be alerted when new content is released. If you want to hear more from me outside of YouTube, I have Twitter at OneManThinkTan1, the Roman numeral, link in the description below. And as always, and most importantly, have a wonderful day.